Diversity and oppression. Being Black in America in the Essential Blue Eye show scenarios where individuals of the African American race experience dissimilar treatment as opposed to those of dominant groups. The videos display humiliation, unfair treatment, inequality, discrimination, and stereotypes too, in addition to some other behaviors. As previously mentioned, both of the videos are targeting the African American race. In the films, the minority groups use resilience when attacked by their oppressors. Dylan explains how they are convinced that we as Blacks are intellectually weak, but we have an opportunity to prove them wrong with the weight of our success. So as long as we succeed as Blacks, that's one of our advantages to prove our oppressors. In the Essential Blue Eye film, Joan showed the Midwestern group how we as Blacks feel when we lack validation. So basically, in the event that we're discriminated against or we are stereotyped, some of us as African Americans, we will ignore it and we won't allow those of a different race to determine our character or our attitudes, while some of us do allow it to impact us. Both of the artists focus on the Black race, which shows empowerment and also advocacy through the creation of the videos. So in Being Black in America and also in the Essential Blue Eye film, as I mentioned, it does focus on the Black race. However, both of the artists of the films, what they tend to do is they try and empower us through positive words of encouragement and also by actually giving us as Blacks an opportunity to show our oppressors how it feels to be treated in such a way. In the Ask Me, Let's Talk About Intellectual Disabilities and Same Love films, the speakers experience discrimination because of their intersectionality, their choice of identification, and disability. All of the speakers were advocates and provided empowerment for people that are in similar situations as them. In the Ask Me, one of the speakers identified as a queer trans man, which is a Christian man of the white race. Another identified as a gender fluid, and so forth. When people see them, they identify them as what they appear to be, which is disturbing for them. Allowing those of the LGBTQ to be identified as their preference, participate in hands-on events, and partake in critical discussions is actually a strength for them because that's what they become most excited with doing. This helps them without being targeted while helping them to achieve the goal. So this relates to power, privilege, and acclaim. Loretta speaks on how her intellectual disability creates an environment for lack of validation. She relies heavily on her religious beliefs and calling of life, as she referenced in the video, which displays her strengths. So as Loretta mentioned, just because you have an intellectual disability does not mean that you are limited as to what you can do. Loretta's belief and her religious faith encouraged her to do what she felt she was called to do. When I was in the 3rd grade, I thought that I was gay were the stereotypes the artist from The Same Love created of himself. The artist experiences resiliency when he references the YouTube comments regarding his sexuality, but he uses a religious saying as a strength and for empowerment, for uplifting to live and be himself. So although he received a negative comment, he uses a religious saying which is actually stated in the lyrics, to uplift and empower himself. In the 4 films, What is Environmental Justice, Shannon Rainey and Janet Stemley, Garden Plaza residents speak out. Taking Root, the vision of Wangari Maathai and Wangari Maathai and the Greenbelt movement. They deal with environmental injustices. They advocate for their community, mentioning issues that negatively impact the community. The lack of financial mobility implies that they're facing poverty. So the artists in the What is Environmental Justice basically spoke and said that sometimes they are facing financial mobility problems, whereas not everyone is able to simply uproot from the environment in which they grew. Not everyone is able to basically move out and move into better living conditions. So if they were there, sometimes they have to stay there because this is the only place that is affordable for them to live. In the environmental justice video, they focus on trends by using litigations such as fighting at courts and also using media outlets and other types of assistance to be able to get assistance with bettering their environment. So although they may be having problems with financial assistance, they can also use what they try and do is locate resources to assist them with bettering their environment. Shannon and Janice expresses their lack of validation through their feelings of shame to live in the community. They also express poverty because the homes they live in were built off of low-income Black families. So basically, they come in and they express that the homes in which they live in, no one is able to find them. They were also built according to the race and also the class, and also poverty systems. So this makes them feel as if they are receiving lack of validation. Taking roots in the Greenbelt movement focuses on the strength and empowerment of planting trees for resources. So basically, females in the area lacked resources, so one way they were able to get them were by planting resources. Wangara received awards for her sustainability. The women experience resilience through the government, but they do not allow the government to debate their womanhood as they were aware of their human rights. So when the women decided to go in and plant trees, the government did not like this, which is kind of like basically the human rights injustices. So because they did not allow this, or they did not want these things to happen, they still continued to do it anyway because they felt as if they had a right to, which assisted them with getting resources and other things. The Three Deadliest Words, It's a Girl by Evan Davis focuses on the female gender. He uses a gender filter when explaining the amounts of women that are being killed every year in the gender side. So basically what Evan does is he focuses on the importance of the death rate of the women that are being killed every year. Evan refers to turning the mirror around. This relates to sustainability and empowerment, as this will restore the dignity and the value to the current and future girls. So what he does is he uses words of encouragement, words of empowerment to get the girls to understand the values of themselves, and not be so fearful as it pertains to the deaths or being killed as they are aware of. Seven kids, one apartment. What does poverty mean to this teen? Gomez's scenario displayed an illustration of poverty. He stated things such as being toe-to-toe with 6 siblings in a one-bedroom apartment, which seems pretty tough. Luckily and gratefully that I haven't had to experience that. But have you ever had to be toe-to-toe with 6 of your siblings? So I can only imagine how chaotic that can be at times. As also in the beginning of the video, you can hear some of the chaos going on between them. But although his mother did not consider them poor, they made $30,000, which clearly correlates with poverty. So to he and his mother, to him, he thought that they were middle class, but when speaking with his mom and asking her, did she think she were poor, she actually disagreed with that because she was convinced that they had some things that, that some poor people would not have. However, to the Gomez family, again, as I mentioned, they were convinced that they were middle class. Gomez experienced a time where he did not attend school. He took this tough situation and changed it by using self-motivation to go to school, which relates to empowerment and sustainability. It also relates to resiliency too, because again, he was basically in a tough spot where he had to watch his siblings and do different things things like that. So he was able to turn this tough situation around by going to school where he actually, going to school the following year where he was actually able to have perfect attendance. So again, that explains resilience too.